Thought I'd do a sort of rambling type video, really, where I just play a bit of Double Dragon for a bit and ramble on about various things and thoughts I've had from watching some of the other videos on YouTube to retro gaming. Thought I'd give Double Dragon a go. I was playing this yesterday. I was testing the EverDrive on that last vid. See how I do. I don't know whether I'm going to get to the end on this or what. Yeah, I guess one of the first things I'd like to talk about is I recently watched a video from gamesblokes, and he was talking about the amount of money he spends on retro gaming and stuff, and questioning you know, this hobby, I guess. And yeah, I think that's something that probably all retro collectors you know, do from time to time. I've had that quite a bit recently, where you know, you sit and you question, you say, why the hell am I spending, you know, 50 quid on some games and a console or whatever. For me, you know, the main issue for me really is space. These things obviously do take up a lot of space. That's my primary issue, and I don't know, other people might not be in that scenario. You know, some people might be more concerned about the money. You know, the money is obviously an obvious one as well. But the thing for me is, and the reason why I went down this whole route of, you know, starting collecting some of these retro systems a few years back now, is you look at modern, you know, mainstream games on, you know, modern consoles, 360, PS3, Wii, etc., and even some of the handheld systems as well, you know, Vita, DS, etc. And you look at the quality, you know, of new titles and things, and it's just the same old crap, isn't it? It's just rehashes of the same old things. You know, you look at FPS games, Call of Duty, etc. It's just, you know, I've forgotten. I haven't even kept up with the latest versions of Call of Duty. There's been that many versions of it. You know, it's just an excuse to bring out a new version of it every year, add a few new weapons, same old maps, then charge people for some of those same old maps. You know, ridiculous prices. But when you look at some of these old retro games, you know, the playability. Oh, my button stopped working. There we go. The playability is certainly there, and you know, when you look at the costs, you know, this is the thing for me that summed it up. I was like, do I spend 40 quid? That button's not working. Do I spend 40 quid on? Hang on a minute. I'm just going to cut while I sort this button out. Not sure what happened there. Something went wrong with the button. I don't know. It seems alright now. Not sure if it was not plugged in properly to the Mega Drive. Anyway, as I was saying, yeah, game cost. That's one of the main things. I started looking at, you know, spending 40, 50 quid on an Xbox game, and it's like, well, you know, you're going to play it for 4 or 5 hours, maybe 20 hours if you're lucky. But ultimately, you get bored of it. And then if you take that same money, you know, 40, 50 quid, you can buy an entire console with games. More often than not, you can just, you know, play copies of games and things on them as well. It doesn't take very much cost-wise to be able to get sort of, you know, some sort of solution that allows you to play all the games on that particular format. There's always the emulator versus, you know, hardware point as well, I guess. You know, people could say, well, why would you want to spend any money at all? Just emulate the damn things. But it's just not the same. You don't have the same feel to the games. They're not as accurate. You know, things like sound and graphics, you know, they're almost there. They're 99.9%. Sometimes, you know, more than 100%. You know, sometimes they're better. They look better than the original. And what I mean by that is because you've not got the analog systems in effect. You know, with the graphics output and the sound output and stuff. And emulation is great. You know, you can emulate a CPU fairly accurately. But sound, you know, you always got a resolution issue. It doesn't matter whether you emulate, you know, 16-bit, 48 kilohertz or whatever it is, the audio, but it's never going to be exactly the same as the original. There's always going to be some granulation there that means it's not quite the same. It's pedantic, I know, but it's like, I guess it's the age-old thing about why people like vinyl over CD. You know, they reckon it's richer and all the rest of it. And I don't know, there's a lot of noise on vinyl. I'm not a fan of vinyl, but yeah, it's that argument, I guess. Right, I thought I'd have a go at a bit of Ghouls and Ghosts instead. That game, I think what's happening is it defaults. I think it's an NTSC game, because my console's not switched into NTSC mode physically. I think that's got something to do with it. I tested that same game out a few minutes ago on one of those little handheld Mega Drives, you know, the ones with a crap fire core. and that seemed to work okay. Let's try this, and I'll change that to PAL, see what happens. Anyway, as I was saying, yeah, retro gaming. So I guess it's, you know, you spend 40-50 quid on a game, a console game, or do you spend 40-50 quid on an entire console that you can play a whole library of games that are readily available for it? It's almost a non-brainer. It's the space, really, you know. But from time to time, I do question my own collection. You know, is it getting a bit too big? Yeah, see, the fire button's working fine here. There's nothing wrong with it at all. Not the controller. Very deceptive. But I do think that's a PAL NTSC issue. I think that once I put the switch on here to switch between PAL and NTSC at a hardware level, then I reckon that game will be fine. And I guess the other element with these old retro systems and things is it's the nostalgia, isn't it? At the end of the day, you know, many games that you play have got you know, you've got your own little personal story. Generally about where you first played it, what format you played it on, etc. I mean, Double Dragon for me, I used to go down to like a local caravan park that was near where I lived, and they had you know, a little sort of section of arcade machines there and sort of a cafe. Double Dragon was one of them, and I've never played. In fact, I didn't really have access to that many arcade machines and things where I lived, sort of out in the sticks. So it was a bit of it was like pretty exciting stuff, you know, going to seeing what these sort of cutting edge arcade machines at the time, you know. You had a Spectrum and stuff, and comparing capabilities of something like Double Dragon to a Spectrum, it's, you know, it blows you away, the graphics and sound. And the gameplay at the end of the day as well, you know, you couldn't really get the gameplay on home systems that you had in the arcades. It was just so much more capable. It delivered a much better experience. Double Dragon was, let's say, one of my favourites there. I think they had a few others as well, like Return of the Jedi, I played that a fair bit, and Kung Fu Master. That was where I first played Kung Fu Master. But yeah, I think in reply really to Gamerbloke's original point, I guess, about him questioning his own collection and costs and things and money. Yeah, I do agree that you can get out of hand. That's the problem. I've had that a little bit recently, where, you know, you think, you know, you spend. I spend too much time browsing eBay. You know, oh, let's see what's out there. Is there any faulty systems? You know, anything I can sort of fix and sell? Any really, you know, bargains too good to pass up? And that is a sort of road to doom, really, because you end up buying loads of crap that you perhaps don't need, don't want, haven't really got the time for, don't really plan on actually selling once you've repaired it. I mean, you know, that when I look back some of my recent purchases, the Amiga 1200 I mentioned in my last pickup video, that was a classic example. I got it for spares, and I was like, okay, well, I'll get it for spares, and then I thought, okay, well, I'll try and repair it and I'll sell it, and, you know, bought it for 30. They sell for about £100-ish. I thought, you know, that'll be quite a good investment. I know I can fix it. Ended up, you know, well, may as well keep it. So now I've got two functioning Amiga 1200s, and do I need them? No, I don't. Will the one I've got ever fail to the point where I need to strip a part off the other board? Well, I wouldn't do anyway, you know, I may as well just swap the machines over. So it's a bit silly. And I've done that with other systems as well, you know. I started when I went down the cold Commodore routes. I've not done anything with any of the old 8-bit systems yet. I may get some 8-bit systems in a few years once I've got a bigger house, really, but I don't really have sufficient space to really purchase any more systems and all the stuff that go with them, because it's not really the systems as such, it's all of the you know, accessories and things. You know, you think about some of the 8-bit systems, you've got a tape deck and power supply, and then you've got cassettes, and I'm like, oh, I really don't want to go down the cassette route. And then you start saying, well, okay, well, there's solutions to that. You know, you can buy these EverDrives and similar sort of products, you know, that provide SD card or compact flash, you know, you stick all your games on one form of media and then you're away, type thing. But then the costs escalate. That's the problem. You start off with something simple. You go, oh, I'll just buy a system. And then you go, oh, I'll buy a flash card for it. Oh, I'll buy some pads for it. Oh, I'll buy some extra, you know, arcade pads for it. And, you know, where does it end? You know, before you know it, you've got like half a dozen or more accessories and tons of games and stuff. And, you know, it just starts to become, that's when you start to question. You're like, did I really go the right route with this? You know, maybe I should have just, you know, bought the basics I needed, really. But it's hard to resist when you see some of these things sell at the prices they sell. You know, you go on eBay and you see a system for £2 and you start seeing accessories for £2 or £3 each and games for £1 each. It's just like, well, oh my god, I can't turn that down. eBay is is great, but it's not. If you've got an OCD retro gaming habit, like many of us seem to have, self-included. I guess one of the other points to do with retro game collecting as well, it's a whole time thing. You know, you start to think, when am I ever going to get time to play with that console or to go through all those games? Or you know, in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, you know, one day I'll be retired and I'll have more time to myself, and that's when it'll all sort of kick in. But you know, when is that going to be? You're still going to have that same enthusiasm to do that. You know, maybe you won't even make it to retirement, and I guess that's another reason, a pro really, to do these things. If you want to do something, do it while you get a chance, I guess. Putting things off is never a good idea. You know, I've done that with things that I've wanted in life for a few years and stuff, and ultimately you start to look back and go, why didn't I just do it when you know, I could do it? As long as you can obviously afford it and stuff, and you're not putting yourself out. Yeah, you should always do things while you get a chance. And you know, some of the I've mentioned recently a few times now, Alice and Chalice, you know, and that's a reminder for me, you know, a very real, you know, sort of in the face reminder of what can happen, that one day you can be there and the next day you might not be. And similarly, you know, there's friends and family who've died in recent years, you know, sort of under the age of 50. So it's, you know, it makes you think, you know, you can't always put things off to retirement. So, you know, it's all very well saying, well, okay, I want to collect retro systems now, it's, you know, I'm interested in it, but I'll wait until I've got time and money when I'm older. You might not get older. On the same principle, you might get older, so you don't want to go overboard and screw yourself financially. But yeah, that's just another factor, I guess. Certainly for me. I'm sure that doesn't affect everybody, but it's, for me it's a factor. I think when I had a Mega Drive originally, this is one of the games I had. I don't remember these shitting rocks being anywhere near as hard as they are now. And I watched a video about this the other day on the same game. I think it was one that Luke Morse did, and he was saying that most people give up on that bit. And when I watched it, I thought, I don't remember giving up on that bit. I thought, yeah, I can remember it being, I mean, a little bit difficult when you first get on it, like any of the levels are, but then you just push forward, and ultimately, you know, you get used to it, know what to do. But I'm not convinced, actually, and I can see where he's coming from, because I played this a bit last night as well, and this level is totally pissing me off. It really is. It's so hard to judge when those rocks are going to stop, when they're not going to stop, when they're going to turn into the little thing, when they're going to come out of the shell, I guess. His first ones are okay, but then look, see, you come across one there, and, okay, that's not so bad. And look at this, Jesus Christ, give me a break. Like, how are you supposed to avoid that many? That's just ridiculous. So yeah, I can understand why a lot of people get put off this game on this this stage. They're relentless. They're absolutely relentless. If you just stop for a second, you end up with like 4 or 5 on the screen, and then look at this. How you get? That's just ridiculous. That is insane. I think if you get a bit further up here, I'm nearly there now. I think we might be past it. Oh shit! Forgot about that. Yeah, I wasn't sure when I was. Oh, bollocks! I wasn't sure when I started playing this yesterday whether it was the Mega Drive I originally owned this on. Because there was a time when I got the Mega Drive about a year later or something. I got rid of it, got a SNES and Amiga around the same time as well. And I wasn't too sure whether it was the Mega Drive version or the SNES version. But I've since subsequently looked at the SNES version on an emulator and stuff, and on videos on YouTube, and it's completely different. Super Ghouls and Ghosts, you know, they changed the levels completely, different enemies, you know. It's I mean, it's much better. It looks better on the SNES. You know, the SNES was more technically capable in my mind. Well, it was, as a fact. You know, better sort of sprite support and sound support. The sound was fantastic on the SNES. But yeah, I definitely had on the Mega Drive, because this is exactly how I remember playing it. Sort of these little shitting turtle things landing on me and pissing me off. But I did used to be able to get. I got to the point where I could master this and get past this without any issue. But God knows how I'd managed to do it. And I guess coming back to the subject of retro gaming, that's another thing that I guess that appeals to me with retro gaming. Games these days are too easy. They just are. You know, you get save point, checkpoint, save point. You know. And we've all done it. I mean, I did it with Half-Life, Half-Life 2 and stuff, where you play for a minute and you save it. You know, kill a few enemies on a hard bit and then you save it. You know, you end up saving every 30 seconds. Oblivion's one of those actually, and Skyrim. That I tend to do that, and I kick myself when I forget that you're playing along and you're doing really well and you're kicking ass and everything's fine. You're doing really well. And then suddenly you come across a really tough enemy and you don't think, because you've not been saving for a while. And you spend ages fighting this boss or whatever, and it kicks your ass, and you die. And then it's like you load your save point. And it's like, oh my god, that's like half an hour ago. And then I just tend to get cheesed off when that happens, and that's one of the main reasons why I stopped playing Skyrim. That I kept forgetting to save the damn game. But when you look at some of these older games, they're not very forgiving at all, to say the least. And to a certain degree, it gives them that sort of personality. It gives them a bit of character, if you like. That. You know what you're up against. Yeah, it's bloody hard. You've got to really sort of get used to the levels, timing, knowing where everything is and everything, strategies. There just seems to be a lot more strategy and sort of stuff involved that you don't get in a lot of modern games. And it's the charm, I guess, as well. Simple graphics, simple music. That's certainly what appeals to me, anyway. Bollocks. See, my memory is not doing the right things at the moment. At least I didn't fall in this time. I suspect this one's going to be a pain. Oh yes. I've got no idea what's the end of here. I think there's a fire dog or something. I might be thinking of... No, there's a fire dog. Oh shit. Now, will I get a checkpoint? I think you do get some checkpoints on this. Maybe just Ghosts and Goblins you got checkpoints on. Anyway, not much more to say really at this stage. Yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll do another video soon when the MVS 161 in 1 cart arrives. Cheers.